Welcome to the Finely Tuned Infrastructure podcast by Rhythmic Technologies. Today we're looking at something pretty critical, what happens after you get that initial SOC2 compliance certification. And just to be clear, that's SOC 2, SOC2. It's a big deal for service organizations handling customer data securely. We're basing our chat today on a really insightful blog post from Rhythmic, which argues that getting certified is, well, just the beginning.
It really is. It's such a common feeling, isn't it? You cross that finish line, get the SOC 2 report, and think, okay, done.
Sure.
But as Rhythmic points out in the blog, that initial burst of energy, it often fades pretty quickly. And then before you know it, you're right back in that familiar annual scramble mode.
That scramble sounds stressful. And the blog suggests it's not just stress, there are real hidden costs when organizations don't keep up their SOC 2 efforts continuously. Let's unpack that based on what Rhythmic found. Getting SOC 2 certified is a massive achievement, no doubt. You put in the hours, you built the systems, the auditors leave. But then the blog asks that key question, now what? Because as they say, the real work, the ongoing work, starts right then.
Yeah, it's almost predictable, unfortunately. Rhythmic's research highlights that if you don't have a sustainable plan, that compliance momentum just evaporates. Evidence collection gets patchy, maybe someone forgets a review, and then maybe 10, 11 months later, suddenly it's panic stations again. Oh no, the audit's coming. The blog makes it clear even a really solid initial SOC 2 setup can fall apart without that day-to-day maintenance. Like you said, it's not set and forget.
That makes sense. So beyond the panic, what does Rhythmic identify as the sort of hidden cost, the true price of letting things slide?
Well, they're pretty significant and often creep up on you. First, the blog mentions security vulnerabilities. Think about it. A misconfigured server, maybe a permission issue, if you're only checking annually. That vulnerability could sit there for months, compounding the risk. Rhythmic rightly points out that great tech means little without ongoing checks. Then there are the operational disruptions. Oh, I've seen this. Your engineering team is mid-sprint, working on new features, and suddenly, bam, drop everything, we need audit evidence now. It just grinds progress to a halt, completely kills efficiency. And don't forget staff burnout. Your team worked hard for that initial certification, making them go through fire drills every year because the process isn't continuous. That feels like punishment, as the blog puts it. It's terrible for morale and that security culture you're trying to build. Finally, there are the lost opportunities. Finding a major control failure during the audit, that's often way more expensive and disruptive to fix than if you'd caught it months earlier through regular checks. There's actually a quote in Rhythmic's research from a security exec that nails it. They said something like, "We invested heavily up front, but 6 months later we realized we'd been accumulating security debt because nobody was watching the store between audits."
Wow, accumulating security debt. That's a powerful way to put it. Painful almost. Okay, so this annual scramble is costly and draining. What's Rhythmic's solution? They talk about a monthly approach, right?
Exactly. That's the core idea. Real security, real compliance. It happens continuously, not just in the weeks before an audit. The blog uses a great analogy. You think about accounting teams. They don't just look at the books once a year, do they? No, they reconcile monthly, track constantly. Security evidence needs that same rhythm. And Rhythmic gives some really practical steps in the blog for how to do this monthly evidence collection. First, break down the big annual tasks, that huge access review everyone dreads. Split it into 12 smaller monthly reviews. Much more manageable, and you catch issues sooner. Second, really lean on the automation you already have, your identity provider, Okta, Azure AD, Google Workspace, whatever you use. These tools can often generate monthly reports automatically. Configure them. Make your tech work for you continuously. And a simple but crucial one, standardize your evidence templates and naming. Sounds basic, but it makes documentation consistent and training new people so much easier. Avoids that last-minute confusion.
The benefits sound pretty substantial. Rhythmic reports organizations doing this spend something like 70% less time on audit prep, and they catch issues earlier, which is obviously better for actual security. That seems like a no-brainer. So monthly collection handles the process, but what about the people? Keeping the team engaged after the initial SOC 2 push is hard. Compliance fatigue is real. How does Rhythmic suggest tackling that human element?
Yeah, that's crucial. You can't let the culture slide back. Rhythmic has a few strategies here. First, you need to actively fight compliance fatigue. Don't just assume everyone's still excited. The blog suggests sharing concrete examples. Hey team, remember that MFA control we implemented? It just blocked a real attack. Make the wins visible. Remind people why it matters. Second, evolve your security training. Generic annual awareness videos. They get old fast. You need role-specific training, What developers need is different from sales. Make it relevant to their actual jobs, more engaging. And finally, lean into your security champions. You know those people who are really engaged during the initial push? Don't lose them. The blog recommends formal recognition programs. Celebrate their ongoing contributions. Make finding vulnerabilities or suggesting improvements a heroic act. Keep them invested.
Okay, so automation was key initially, and now it sounds like it's even more critical for the long haul for sustainability. How does Rhythmic see automation evolving past that initial setup phase?
Absolutely. It shifts from being an implementation tool to an operational engine. First, move to continuous monitoring. Don't just run checks before the audit. Configure your tools, the ones you already have for SOC 2 Type 2 continuous monitoring. Set up automated alerts. You want to know about a control failure when it happens, not months later? Then, automate the routine workflows. Things like access reviews, change approvals, even incident documentation. Doing these manually eats up so much time. Rhythmic stresses that automating these workflows is essential for sustainability. Think recurring Jira tickets for monthly tasks, automated approval chains. These systems enforce the process and generate the evidence automatically. Rhythmic also talks about building custom integrations where needed. Maybe your GRC tool doesn't quite connect perfectly to a key system. Building those specific links to pull evidence automatically can slash manual effort. The blog suggests maybe 80% and improves the quality too. And like we touched on, your identity provider, IDP, is your compliance backbone. Azure AD, Okta, Rippling, Google Workspace. These things are gold mines for audit-ready reports on access, logins, permissions. Set up those automated exports for user access reviews, failed logins, whatever you need. It's a built-in audit trail.
That impact sounds huge. Rhythmic notes organizations with mature automation can spend 75% less time on their third audit compared to their first. That's massive. So if this needs to be sustainable and integrated, it feels like SOC 2 can't just live in the security team's silo forever, right? What about broader governance? What does Rhythmic recommend there?
You're spot on. The blog makes a strong case that for long-term success, SOC 2 needs proper governance involving a whole business. Their first recommendation is a security steering committee. Get people from engineering, ops, finance leadership in a room quarterly. Have them review compliance, discuss risks, align security with business goals. Executive visibility means resources and follow-through. It elevates it beyond a checkbox exercise. Second, ditch the annual risk assessment. Your risks change faster than that. That risk assessment needs to be a living thing. Rhythmic suggests updating the risk register monthly, tracking progress on mitigations. Keep it current, keep addressing issues. And finally, critically, connect compliance metrics to business objectives. Don't just report, we completed X control tests. Report on how the SOC 2 program is actually reducing business risk. Frame it as business enablement, not just overhead cost. That gets leadership buy-in.
Okay, that makes sense. But things change, right? A company grows, vendors change. A SOC 2 program that worked last year might not fit next year. How does Rhythmic suggest managing that kind of change proactively?
That's a really common tripwire. Growth and vendor changes can absolutely derail compliance if you're not ready. Rhythmic has specific advice here. For vendor management, you can't treat all vendors the same. Implement tiered assessments based on risk. Focus your deep dives on vendors handling sensitive data. Centralize the documentation, automate tracking renewal dates, that sort of thing. Keep the supply chain tight. Second, design for scale right from the beginning, or at least retrofit for it. Document your processes really well. Create detailed runbooks so new team members can pick things up easily. And make sure your core systems, especially your IDP, can handle growth without major upheaval or creating new gaps. And importantly, the blog advises to increase review frequency during rapid growth. If you're scaling fast, maybe annual or even quarterly isn't enough for some checks. Consider more frequent internal reviews during hypergrowth phases. A system that worked for 50 people might really struggle with 500. Catch those scaling issues early.
This is all great advice, but how do you know if you're actually making progress? If you're moving towards that sustainable model, how does Rhythmic suggest measuring maturity?
Measurement is absolutely vital to know if you're breaking that panic cycle. Rhythmic provides some solid benchmarks. You need to track operational efficiency metrics. Things like, how many hours are we spending on monthly evidence collection? Aim for under 10, maybe. What's our control failure rate? Target under 5%. How quickly do we fix things remediation cycle time? Aim for under 30 days. And what percentage of our controls are automated? Push for over 80%. And then look at security effectiveness. Your mean time to detect incidents, vulnerability fix rates, access review completion rates, even things like training participation. Are people actually engaging? The blog really pushes for evaluating this maturity quarterly. Stop thinking of the audit as the only checkpoint. See it as a routine validation of the daily practices you've built. The real goal, remember, isn't just the audit report. It's building those embedded security habits that genuinely protect the business every day.
It really paints a picture of transforming SOC 2 from this dreaded annual event into just part of the normal business rhythm. The core message from Rhythmic seems to be sustainable compliance isn't about working harder each year, it's about working smarter, continuously.
Exactly. And maybe the best way to leave it is with that provocative question from Rhythmic's blog. Your next audit is coming. Will you be scrambling or will you be ready?
A very good question indeed. Thanks for walking through that. And just a quick casual mention, this episode was actually AI generated. For the original blog post and lots more great content, definitely check out rhythmictech.com.